YouTube, Deadwolf here with another one. This time we're bringing you top 10 true scary stories from the Great Depression. And if you're like me and you like top 10, well, then you're going to really like this video. Make sure you leave a comment, leave a like, and hit the bell notification so you get notified the next time we drop a new video. Without further ado, we're going to jump into it.
The Great Depression was nothing to laugh at. It was a very hard time, one of the biggest struggles in American history. Whether it's people losing tons of money, losing their houses or their jobs, we have it all on today's top 10 list. Coming in at number 10, we have the moolah lost. How much money went down the drain when everything fell apart during the Great Depression? It all started on October 24th, 1929. This day is known as Black Tuesday, when the people who were trading money on the stock market saw everything go to the trash and lost $14 billion in a single day. And keep in mind, this was in 1929, and don't worry, there will be a conversion coming later. I just want to give you some more numbers first, because when the stocks go down the most we've ever seen in history, they don't stop until they've crashed to rock bottom. So over the course of the week, the number would more than double, reaching $30 billion. This is during a time when a loaf of bread cost less than 40 cents. One more number for you before we give you the conversion. The federal budget at that time was less than $3 billion. That's the annual budget, and they lost $30 billion in a week. So now that we got all that out of the way, what does $30 billion in today's currency look like? That number is $461,428,070,175.44. Is that how you say that? It's a big number. It was hard to say, guys. It was all over the place. I did an exact conversion, so it's somewhere around $460 billion. That's a lot of money lost in a week. Okay, guys, now, coming in number 9, we have World War II helped people get out of the Great Depression. See, the Great Depression started in America because of people overspending and consumer culture getting so out of control that the market literally had nowhere to go but down. You think we would have learned something from that, but it turns out that we haven't. But probably one of the weirdest aspects of this is that it pretty much stopped right when World War II kicked off. Now, this was for a multitude of reasons. For one, people around the world now had a common enemy to focus on, so people weren't looking at their wallets as much. On top of that, it sent millions of people to wars, so that now there was a mass influx of jobs in the job market, with factories making supplies for the war effort and tons of people gone. There were so many more jobs available, so much so that this actually changed the job market for the good and saw women come into the workforce. It was just wild to think that the Great Depression might have gone on even longer if it wasn't for World War II. If you weren't sent off to war when things kicked off and you stayed at home, things in your life might actually have improved. Coming in at number 8, we have shanty towns. With most of the jobs falling away, people's livelihood being stripped from them because the stock market fell apart, and food being harder to find than a well-built American car, people were going into straight depression mode. There was nothing that people could do. And because the banking system was so broken, they were coming for everyone so they could take their houses away. This would then turn into people being forced to find housing in any way that they could, because you couldn't just take your land back from the bank. I mean, you should have been able to. They were the ones that caused the market to collapse. Well, then you had to go somewhere else to try and build a home from scratch. This created massive shanty towns where people were living.
Coco, shake hands with me, or I won't give you food. Wow, she really can get it.
People would just make shacks to live in because there was literally nowhere else to go. Back then, people were much more resourceful, and there wasn't a place where you could just go buy a tent, and there was way more kids back then. Now, when the economy had collapsed, you just have a bunch of 20-somethings that have tens of thousands of dollars in debt and just push that towards overcharging landlords. Next on the list, we have crime went through the roof. I mean, this should be no surprise. The only reason we haven't seen a crime spike right now with everything that has been going down around the world is because most countries have been giving money to their people so they don't go crazy and rip the world apart. Well, at least that's what's been happening here in Canada. I mean, I've been working and bringing you guys the YouTube hit, so I haven't been able to get on the dole, but a lot of people have. But back in the days of the Great Depression, you better believe that there was no way of getting any sort of income from the government. People had to do whatever they could to try and stay alive, and most of that came from stealing from other people. Next on the list, guys, we have sickness. So let's stack all these things on top of each other. You just lost your job, so now you have to go home to your family and tell them that there is nearly nothing you can do to bring in some money and make sure that everyone has food to eat. Then you start to go hungry, finding bits of food here and there so everyone can stay alive, but that doesn't mean anyone has a full belly for a while. If you get sick, there's no way you can go to the doctor, and now with all this stress on your shoulders, you are the most prone to sickness you have ever been before in your life. It's also the 1930s, so people just aren't as clean as they are nowadays. So what would happen to you? You have rickets, ringworm, and many other diseases that would start to wreak havoc on not only you, but your whole neighborhood. There was widespread disease during this time and nearly no way to treat it. People were constantly getting ill, and it's thought that at least 50% of children were either hungry, sick, or both. Next on the list, guys, we have job loss. Now, we've covered in this list already that millions of people lost their jobs when the Great Depression hit. It was somewhere around 15 million Americans that lost their job over a very short period of time. At its peak, unemployment was at 25%. That is a quarter of Americans with no job and no way to get a job. And the hits don't stop coming there. There was another 25% of people that had their hours cut. So this meant that there was 50% of the country that couldn't make enough money to provide for the people around them. It's surprising that the country is still standing today. That would have been a wild time to be alive. From 1914 to 1945, you would have had to go to World War I, then you would have had the Roaring '20s, then the Great Depression, and then World War II. And we're sitting over here thinking that 1 year of a pandemic is bad. I think I would take this over trench warfare and watching my friends and family lose their homes any day of the week. This is a much cushier time to be alive. Next on the list, guys, we have Al Capone gave back. Now, this is actually a very sweet story. It's not really scary at all. The scary part is that it highlights just how bad the Great Depression was. It turned one of the hardest gangsters in the world into Mother Teresa. As we have covered, there wasn't a lot of money to go around during the Great Depression, so people had nowhere to get food. This is where Al Capone came.
Looking to earn real cash rewards for sharing your opinion? Join QMe. QMe is a free app designed with you in mind. When you sign up for QMe, you can enjoy no minimum cash out, rewards added in real time, and fun and engaging surveys that fit your profile. Our top-rated app will fit your lifestyle so you can earn real cash on the go. Why share your opinion? It helps your voice be heard, and you can influence the direction of your favorite brands. Be sure to sign up today so you can start being rewarded for your opinions, your searches, and your purchases. QMe. Share, shop, and search to earn real.
Came in and started a soup kitchen. He opened up one so every day people could go and get something to eat. And maybe if the boss liked you, you get a little work on the side so you make a little bit of money. I don't know if that second part is true, but I like the idea of that he was like recruiting through the soup kitchen. But on top of that, there's stories of Al Capone going around to different stores and telling the owners that they had to give away clothes and food to people so they could have things to wear and food in their bellies. And you're probably thinking, well, that's not very nice for the store owner. Yeah, these people are all going to get goods, but this guy's going to go out of business. Capone told the store owners to send him the bill. Next on the list, guys, we have ghosted. When you get ghosted now, you might have been seeing someone for a few weeks, and then out of nowhere, you can't get a hold of them. It hurts, but it doesn't really change your life. You live to walk on another day and find love somewhere else, or you get angry and then subtweet them, whatever you like to do. Either option is great, but before the golden age of the internet, ghosting was a much more serious affair. Back during the Great Depression, you saw some of the most serious ghosting that we will ever see in history, with dudes just abandoning their wife and kids. Now, I mean, this still happens today, so it shouldn't be a huge surprise that people were doing it back then, but what is surprising is the rate at which it was happening. There was a reported 1.5 million women who said that their husbands just disappeared. That's a lot of angry tweets, my dude. And those were just the reported ones, but dudes all over the country found that trying to provide for a family was too much and sought to trek out on their own in search of a better life. Next on the list, we have the Dust Bowl. This is probably one of the roughest times in American history. You have the Great Depression going on where there are no jobs anywhere. The economy is in the toilet. Well, you think to yourself you should at least be able to farm and grow stuff on your own. If you're a man who knows how to work with his hands, then you don't need a job. You can just build a life. Well, that's when the Dust Bowl hit. This was when there was a massive drought all through Middle America. This made it insanely hard for anyone to be able to grow crops. So now you have a massive food shortage, and the area has become extremely dangerous. This wasn't called the Dust Bowl for no reason. The ground was so dry that sandstorms would literally move through, and people had to cover their eyes and mouths so they wouldn't suffocate. The rate of lung-related illness went through the roof. So not only were you hungry, you now couldn't breathe. And next on the list, guys, we have the banks went under. Man, with all the times that banks have crashed, it's surprising that we still have the same system that repeats itself over and over. I understand now why it's a movie trope for crazy people to keep money in the walls. That's not a crazy thing to do. You have to watch your back, because if you put all your faith in these banks and these companies, they will leave you in the dust when push comes to shove. Over the course of the Great Depression, somewhere around 50% of the banks went out of business. So that shouldn't be a big deal, right? If a bank goes under, you just have to walk over there and get your money out. I mean, you might have to wait in line with the millions of other Americans, but you would still get your money, right? Well, if you think that, you would be dead wrong. The American government wasn't insuring bank deposits, so if the bank you were working with went under, that meant all the money that you had put away would disappear, and you could say goodbye to everything that you owned and all of your savings. You could have lost your life savings overnight at no fault of your own. Is there anything safe to keep your money in? Well, the walls. We went over that. All right, guys, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Jay Arena. We'll catch you on the next one.
Alright, y'all, if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment. Make sure you give a shout out to the one and only Dead Wolf. And I'm going to give a shout out to Che Durena. I've done a few of his videos. Danny Burke, Rebecca Felgate, all you guys at Top 10. I'll catch you guys later. And to all my Little Caesars crew, I'll see y'all guys shortly.